Okay, welcome back for part 2 of my Ryzen 5 2400G build. This video has taken far longer than I would have ever expected it to take. Had some technical problems with the machine. Most of them were my own doing. I had to basically take the whole thing apart to realign the motherboard with the backplate. And then while I was doing that, I had the great idea of trying to apply some of my Thermaltake TG7 instead of the stock thermal compound because I was unable to locate my Arctic Silver 5, which I eventually did locate after the fact. But it turns out I used all this stuff and oh man, it made the idle temperatures absolutely terrible. So here we are looking at the performance review. The main thing to note about this build is that this is an APU, but it is running 300 or 3000 megahertz memory with the XMP profile enabled to give the video subsystem and the Ryzen processor as the best possible performance that it can get. So right now what I'm doing, I'm loading up RimWorld with one of my typical modded runs, and we're going to run a colony that I don't normally show on any of my streams. This is basically the colony that I play when I don't want to stream and I just want to play. And this is the one I've been doing the most recently. So we're going to load that up. And I'm not going to cut this at all because I want to give a real-time sense of how long this takes to load. And I'll post my mod list. This is a SATA-based SSD, so yes, an NVMe would be much faster, I'm sure. But I think overall this build runs pretty good. And I do have the Steam frame rate in the corner, and also I'm going to show this same colony running on my 2700 Ryzen 7 2700 machine after the fact, just to give an idea of what you can expect. And I'm going to capture that through my Elgato. So here we are at speed 1. Yep, running at speed 1. And I'm viewing this through my capture card. I'm not expecting anything crazy to happen. But I have a fair amount of pawns and a decent chunk of mods, and it loaded fairly quickly. And I will be linking to the mod list that this colony is using in the description of the video. So you can check that out to see what mods I'm running. Right now I've got 18 colonists. And some of them are off screen. Let's take get an idea how long world generation is. This is a 100% world. I would like to note that. This is not a 30% or, I don't know, does anybody actually run 60% worlds? I don't. But this is a 100% world that has been generated, and I've got a caravan out that's on its way to do some trading. And we're just going to crank this up to speed 3. And yeah, it does cut down a little bit. It's a little choppy. I don't think I have speed 4 mod enabled. No, I do not. But you can see that I'm getting some pretty decent performance with a fairly large amount of colonists. I would consider this a pretty moderate level colony. I mean, there's nothing really crazy going on in this colony right now, like a raid or anything like that. But as you can see, so we're going to ensure our... How many visitors do we have? We must have had quite a few if they weren't. There's 3 of them. That's the first time I've actually brought visitors in using the hospitality mod, for anyone who's wondering what mod is causing that. But as you can see, the game's running fairly steady. I still would think that using a straight-up CPU without integrated graphics on the AMD end would be a better choice as opposed to discrete graphics card or an add-in graphics card is still going to be much better for this game. And I'll cut to showing that on the PC that I normally play on here in a moment to get a difference, you know, to see a difference. So we're going to go ahead and save this colony, and we're going to load it up on the flip side. Okay, and we're back loading up the exact same colony on my primary PC, which has the same exact SSD. It's the Crucial MX500 1 terabyte via M.2 interface. But my graphics card is currently different. I bought a MSI GTX 1070 Seahawk to get a feel for NVIDIA cards, since I haven't owned one in 10 years, and to test out FreeSync on my display. And you can see already that the frame rate is moving higher just with the game paused. We're going to go ahead and generate the planet real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and execute my trades, and we'll come right back. And we'll get them scurrying back to our colony. So we've got a lot more going on here. It started to rain, and even at speed 3, you can see it's slightly better in performance, but not noticeably. It might be a tad bit faster if I wasn't encoding with the same video card that I'm outputting to. So as far as just performance in RimWorld, it's pretty comparable to the 2400G is comparable to what I would get on the on my 2700 as far as CPU goes. I mean, there's things that could be done to improve it. If this game was multi-core, I bet you it would run on a lot slower machines, but RimWorld just isn't truly multi-core and likely won't be at this point if Tynan, the developer, is to be believed. The big takeaway is if you were looking to build an APU machine for RimWorld, I just wouldn't do it. I attempted to play Doom 2016 and some other titles on the machine. I ran 3D Mark, Haven Benchmark, just to get it good, just to break the machine in. I ran Prime 95 to burn in the thermal paste, and I mean, the thing runs rock solid, but if I could add a discrete graphics card into this machine, I absolutely would. And I don't, because of the case I selected, I have no graphics cards that'll fit in here. I have a few RX 580s, and they are the same length as pretty much every other graphics card I have laying around, including my Vega 64s and my water-cooled NVIDIA 1070. So I can't really pop a discrete graphics card in there. As far as other takeaways from this machine, I'll switch views and discuss that a little bit more. So this machine looks positively huge, but when you compare it to my desktop, it's actually relatively small. All the technical issues have been solved. I did install the plate correctly. I did manage to get proper Arctic silver. You know, it's not the highest grade stuff you could put on a processor to keep it cool, but it just needed to be better than the stock thermal compound. The idle temperatures prior to replacing the thermal compound were around the 60 degrees Celsius mark, which I think is really high for idle. Putting Arctic silver on brought that all the way down to about 40 degrees Celsius, which is what I would consider a good average. I mean, you could go lower with water cooling, but for air cooling on a stock heatsink, 40 degrees Celsius is as good as it's going to get. I managed to get everything installed on this machine. I got the cool stickers. I had no idea it was going to come with Radeon Vega graphics sticker. I'm so jealous. I wish I had a couple of these for my machine. And I know it's a little bit of a mess here. I've got my Chinese Famicom clone sitting here for a future project. But, I don't know, there's this little ding here. I don't know if I nicked it or something, but it's pretty noticeable even without the camera. It actually looks more noticeable with the camera. There's a little bit of dust guard up front on the machine. I bought a whole bunch of zip ties and zip tied things into place much better than in the part 1 video, but I didn't really have time to record any of that. I can feel air coming through here, and that one fan seems to be doing a great job bringing enough fresh air into the case, even when I crank up Prime 95 and get things really sweating on the inside, really hot. So the big takeaways with this particular project, I wish to God I would have picked a different case. I don't think this case is going to fit where my aunt and uncle want it to fit. And I wish I would have spent more time finding a better case. Something like the NZXT mini-ITX cases would have not been ideal. That would have been too big for what I wanted to accomplish with this machine. I think I could have found a smaller case. I definitely would not have used the power supply that I bought. I wish I would have spent the extra money and got an EVGA or Corsair modular power supply. That way I wouldn't have had to deal with tying up a bunch of cables on the inside. So overall, for my first experience building mini-ITX, I think I did okay, but I think after having spec'd another computer tonight for a friend of mine, that I might have done better if I'd gone micro ATX, and I probably would have had a better selection in cases that I could have put into the space my aunt and uncle want to put this case into. So overall, yeah, you can build a very good AMD APU with 2nd gen Ryzen processors that'll play RimWorld just fine if that's what you're into. 3D gaming is a little bit more hit or miss. I mean, I could have tried a title like Overwatch or something like that, and that I heard that game runs on a toaster. I bought the game and I have yet to really play it. I tried Anthem out recently during the open betas, and I don't think the game... I don't think intense 3D gaming would do very well on this system without a discrete graphics card. And if you're going to go discrete graphics card path, just choose like a Ryzen 5 2600 as your CPU instead. You're going to be much better served that way than by choosing an APU and then installing a discrete graphics card later. Maybe further down the road, in a couple of years, when these APUs are a lot cheaper, you could buy one used, slot it into a future chipset system beyond the 400 series AMD chipsets, and use that to just get the machine going. And then if you need to upgrade parts later, like, oh, I'll buy the CPU later, I'll buy more RAM later, I'll buy my discrete graphics card later, that would probably be a good bet. I imagine within a year of today, which is, it's now February 10th, 2019, as of me recording this, that you're going to get a much better value from this processor buying it used aftermarket if you want to use it to build a system around piece by piece. Just, you'd get your motherboard, you'd get some of your RAM maybe. Like in my friend Max's build that he's building for a friend of his, he is going to buy one RAM kit with 2 4GB RAM chips, and then he'll buy another one for him later as his friend gets more money to upgrade the system. And he's given him a temporary graphics card he had laying around, like an NVIDIA 770 superclocked or something. I think it's an EVGA card. So he can do the things that he needs to do with that machine out of box. And then later on, when he's got more money, he can slot a different graphics card into that machine build. So when you're speccing out a machine, consider what future upgrades you might want to do. My aunt and uncle, this is going to be a machine that just probably sits in their house for 5 to 7 years and will be used for family photos and videos and basic accounting and word processing, web browsing, not really any gaming. So I'll probably end up uninstalling Steam now that all the testing is done. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with how the builds turned out, and I wish I had a bit more video of the other work that I did. But the last few weeks with the Arctic chill coming through and what I had to do at my job just zapped the energy out of me, and it zapped all the time away that I planned on spending. I was going to do some charts and benchmarks and different things to get a better idea what this system can handle. And I was hoping to slot in at least one of my RX 580s into this machine. And they are the same length as my Vega 64s, and my Vega 64s will definitely not fit in this case. They're too long in their reference models. I wasn't able to just like, oh, well, look what happens when you drop in a discrete graphics card afterward, you know, disable the internal GPU. So I would say if you're able to, like, this machine was built on a $500 budget. In a lot of ways, that just did not work out. Yeah, this machine came in over budget by about $150, and really, for if I'd gone MT, you know, micro ATX with this, I probably could have gotten a discrete graphics card for it, but there's no real reason to. The size of the machine was more important than building a practical desktop for gaming. So the big takeaway from all of this is, you know, ask people with experience first, especially if you're going to build this small form factor for the first time like I just did. I would have definitely selected a different micro ATX case, but I guess also I may not have been able to use a full-size power supply, which was a big advantage in saving money for this build and using this particular case. So it uses a full ATX power supply, and that worked out pretty well. Just go ahead and spend the extra money on a modular power supply from like either EVGA or Corsair. I know this video is probably not what someone would have expected, but yeah, you can play a good game of RimWorld on this machine, I'm sure, and it'll hold up if you just need a cheap build and you want to upgrade it later on. But I would target micro ATX, get a larger case, and you'd have more room for expansion there. Although this little case, you could put a lot in there. I could put a couple 3.5-inch hard drives and 2.5-inch hard drives. I just don't think it would be able to handle all the heat. Once you get the graphics card in there, things are going to get bacon, especially if you get like a 1060 or a 1050 or a 570 or 580. Those cards put out more heat than you would think. Thanks for watching my unorganized rant. Thanks for sticking with me through this build. I wish I had a bit more interesting stuff to say, but it was a fun experience building this mini-ITX. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, comment in the video, anything that you would like to comment. I'll answer any questions about this build. I'm probably going to deliver this thing here in a day or so to my aunt and uncle, and I hope they really like it. Thanks for watching.